Before we jump in, I want to explain why we're reposting this video. We get a lot of questions from clients and in the comments section below on the original video about the Roth IRA income limits and the modified adjusted gross income. But with the recent tax law changes, this keeps coming up and it's still very relevant. So this video breaks it down clearly and explains why it matters, and it's the core tax planning knowledge that most people should understand. So you're ready to make a Roth IRA contribution and your CPA tells you that your modified adjusted gross income is too high. And you're like, what the heck is a modified adjusted gross income? You're familiar with the adjusted gross income, the AGI, but you've never heard of the modified adjusted gross income. Well, today we're going to talk about what is the difference between the modified adjusted gross income and the adjusted gross income and when it's appropriate to use either one of them. So while they might sound similar, the adjusted gross income and the modified adjusted gross income are very different because they play a key role in your eligibility in either tax deductions, government credits, or other types of government programs. Also, lenders rely on the adjusted gross income as a measure of determining your eligibility to pay back a loan. So let's start off with the AGI, which is your adjusted gross income. Now, the adjusted gross income starts off by taking all of your income and then it subtracts out certain specific deductions to come up with the AGI. And we're going to go through an example on the actual tax return. But what it doesn't take into consideration is your itemized or your standard deduction. Okay, now let's look at the actual tax return to see how the AGI is calculated. As I mentioned earlier, the AGI takes into consideration all of your income and then it subtracts out certain deductions. So let's look to see what types of incomes it takes into consideration. What I did here was I actually highlighted the most common types of income. Obviously, there are other types of income, but the most common types of income I highlighted so we can see what's included in the AGI calculation. First, you have W-2 income, which is from your wages that you get from your job. You have the interest, dividend income that you receive either from your bank or your investments. You have IRA distributions. So if you take money out of your IRA, that may be taxable and it gets reported here. In fact, even if it's not taxable, it still gets reported here. And then if it's not taxable, then a zero amount shows up here on the right. We also report any pensions and annuities, Social Security benefits. All these items are your sources of income. So it adds it all up, all your sources of income. Also capital gains and losses. So if you have any capital gains, they're reported on a different schedule, Schedule D, but the sum of that Schedule D shows up here on the first page of your 1040 as a component of your total income. And then there's another line item that says additional income from Schedule 1. So if we go to Schedule 1, we'll see the additional income that's included on that line item. So there would be things like taxable refunds from the state, any alimony you received, business income, such as if you're a sole proprietor and you report it on your Schedule C. Another common type of income is like rental real estate, royalty income, partnerships, whether if you're in a partnership like an LLC, S corporations or trust, all that would be reported here. Unemployment compensation will be reported here as well. And then cancellation of debt. Most people don't realize that if they have their debt canceled, it is actually a taxable event. And then another common income item or other income item is stock options. So if you receive an RSU, or restricted stock unit, restricted stock, there are tax implications for that. So that income would be reported here as well. So if we look at the total amount of all that income, it would be reported on line 10 of other types of income. And if we go back to the 1040, that other income would be reported here on line 8, additional other income or additional income from Schedule 1. So we get added on line 8. Then what we do is we sum up all the income, the aforementioned income from lines 1 through 8, and that gives you your total income, which is reported on line 9. So once you have your total income, that's your gross income, then there are some adjustments to that gross income. So then we go back to Schedule 1, although this time we go to a different part of Schedule 1. So we go back to Schedule 1 and we see that on page 2, there are adjustments to income. And again, I highlighted the most common types of adjustments, but as you can see, there are tons of other adjustments. Most common ones are contributions you've made to a health savings account, like an HSA. If you are self-employed, 1/2 of that self-employment tax is deductible, so that shows up here. If you contribute to a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, or any type of qualified plan, that would also be an adjustment to income. Self-employed health insurance. So if you pay health insurance and you're self-employed, you get a deduction for that. If you've paid alimony to someone, you get a deduction for that, although you have to put the recipient's social security number on there. If you've contributed to an IRA and you have a deduction, you would put that item here. And then student loan interest deductions you would put here. So these are, again, the most common types of adjustments to income, subtractions from your gross income. And then a total amount will be reported here on line 26. And then if we go back on the 1040, we'll see where that's reported. So here back on the 1040, we see that you have, again, your gross income, which is all the income I mentioned earlier. And then you have your adjustments to income that we just went over. So that's what you got from Schedule 1 Part B, which is the second part. So you subtract your adjustments to income from your gross income, and that gives you line number 11, which is your adjusted gross income. And the adjusted gross income is what is very commonly used for lenders when they're trying to lend money to you, or it's primarily used for certain types of grants, or really it's the most commonly used measure of a person's income. You'll notice that the adjusted gross income does not include the standard deduction or the itemized deductions. So that's really important because a lot of people think, well, if I just make more donations or I have a lot of interest expense on my home or property taxes, that's going to help my AGI. But in reality, it does not, because it has no impact on your AGI, your adjusted gross income. Hey everyone, if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel and share this video with other people who you think may be interested in the topic. The more you share and like, the more we're able to provide valuable content like this. So again, to recap, the AGI, the adjusted gross income, is important because it's used a lot by lenders to determine eligibility for a loan. It's used to determine medical expense deductions. It's also used for a lot of other phase outs, like income phase outs. It's used for the calculation of the child tax credit. It's also used for the earned income credit. So as you can see, it's a really important measure of eligibility for certain types of benefits, or also getting a loan. So now let's talk about the modified adjusted gross income, which is used to determine certain tax benefits, certain credits, or government programs. It's actually not an easy calculation to do because you have to add back certain things to the adjusted gross income to get to the modified adjusted gross income. It's also important to note that the modified adjusted gross income is not on your tax return. Unlike the adjusted gross income, which we just showed that is on the tax return and it's easy to find, the modified adjusted gross income is nowhere on the tax return, and it has to be done through a manual calculation. Also, just like the adjusted gross income, the modified adjusted gross income has no impact on whether or not you use a standard deduction or do itemized deductions. So if you do either one of those, it has no impact on the modified adjusted gross income. So to calculate the modified adjusted gross income, you start off with the adjusted gross income, and then you add back certain things. So for example, you add back the tax-exempt interest that you'd receive on municipal bonds, for example. You'd add back any foreign earned income that you had excluded from your income. You'd add back any student loan interest that you deducted. And then you'd also add back any deductible tuition and fees that you deducted on to get to your adjusted gross income. There's some other ones as well, but those are the most common items that you add back to get to your modified adjusted gross income. As I mentioned earlier, it's actually not an easy calculation to do, but it's an important calculation because it determines certain eligibility, which we're going to go into next. So why is the modified adjusted gross income important? It's used for a lot of different government type programs. So for example, an IRA contribution or a Roth IRA contribution is based on your modified adjusted gross income. The premium tax credit that's used to determine how much of your health insurance premiums are deductible or not, that's also based on the modified adjusted gross income. The child tax credit, the American Opportunity Credit, those also are based on the modified adjusted gross income. And also the income-based repayment programs for student loans, those are also based on the modified adjusted gross income. So as you can see, the modified adjusted gross income is a really important factor when you're determining certain government grants, credits, or eligibility for certain deductions on your tax return.